Oh boy, he's back talking about his favorite indie games yet again. This subgenre of games is just untethered, experimental, unique, and full of love from their creators. They have blessed me with countless unforgettable moments, tears, smiles, and sometimes even altered the way I view life itself. So of course, I wanted to make this video to share with you a bunch of my favorites and totally just have an excuse to talk about them again. After having spent a few too many hours in front of screens, I've developed quite a catalog, so this is my 50 favorite indie games of all time. Obviously, being one person, I can't play everything, and I have my own preferences, but I've tried to make this list as objective, robust, and diverse as possible. Also, because it's somewhat of a recommendation video, I'm going to approach all of these games with little to zero spoilers. Sometimes life is just a matter of perspective, and that is a saying that Superliminal turns into a mallet and sets out to bludgeon you over the head with. As you dip into your slumber, the curtains of your eyes close for an interlude to life's play. You briefly catch a glimpse of a commercial for a Somnoscope dream therapy program. Considering it's 3 AM, you're probably expecting no less than a scam, but wait, there's more. By the time you open your eyes, you're already dreaming and balls deep in a completely mind-bending therapy. The only way out is to master your senses in a dreamscape full of optical illusions. Using depth and perception, you'll be able to alter the size and shape of objects to contort this dreamy reality to your will, and between a confused doctor and a slightly sinister AI guiding your adventure, it has big Stanley Parable nostalgia and is just a treat for any puzzle lover.
Good evening, I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Our main stories tonight, but first,
have you ever just wanted to seize control of the nightly news and turn it slightly insane? Well, I saw someone describe Not for Broadcast as Monty Python's 1984, and I cannot possibly think of a better way to put it. You're in the producer's seat now, and the national nightly news is live. Keep the cameras rolling, capture the cringe, get all the best reaction shots, bleep the swears, engage the audience, and most importantly, do what you're told, or don't, it's up to you really. When it comes to unique, this game is second to none. It's a choice-based sim where you run a news show and make terrible decisions that'll see anything from a revolution to the world being taken over by murderous toys, all because you played a commercial on the break that you were specifically told not to play. It has an absurd amount of choices, tons of acted footage, hilarious characters, painfully cringe moments, and an excellent dystopian narrative. There's only two things guaranteed in life: being eventually unsubscribed from it and paying governmental institutions money that they'll probably use to go to Hawaii. In Death and Taxes, you're the Grim Reaper, or at least you're told you are by a spectacled nerd named Fate. Sadly, if this was your edgy little dream, believe me, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. The only thing you'll be reaping is paperwork. Go to your desk, listen to your instructions, sort the profiles of people, choose who lives and who dies. Ignore the very specific instructions given to you to save all the doctors because you wanted to save a granny who bakes lovely cakes, and then kick your bony feet up, check your undead smartphone, and see the chaos caused the following day. It's too bad there were no doctors to save a bus full of people from an accident, but we still have Granny and her cakes. Superhot operates with a very simple premise: time only moves when you do. And that, of course, includes enemies and the copious amount of bullets that they're firing towards you. Much like how enemies burst into shards in this game, Superhot shatters the glass wall between cautious, calm strategy and just saying fuck it all before going balls to the walls like a cracked out time-manipulating John Wick. The ways to progress in this game are only stifled by your quick thinking and imagination, as the game operates almost like a puzzle, yet it's an FPS, which makes it not only incredibly fun, but also very unique. Striking art style aside, it's one that I still remember to this day as a fun old romp, and you can also play it in VR, which just makes it even more enjoyable. This might be hardcore recency bias, but Lies of P is bloody brilliant, and I cannot decide if it's because it saw Miyazaki in a hallway and bullied him for his homework, or because it takes the Souls-like genre and wraps it in the wooden skin of Pinocchio, and then packs it full of incredibly solid bosses, a very fun weapon modification system, and a genuinely intriguing narrative. It wears its inspiration of the FromSoft games as a full-body morph suit, but it's also safe to say that this game offers its own innovation to the genre by combining it with fairy tales. It'll feel familiar to the enjoyers of the Souls-like genre, yet also fresh at the same time. This game really had no right to be as good as it was, and if you're a massive FromSoft snob like I am, just play it, trust me, it's Really good. But alas, not everyone likes running face first into a brick wall in the form of a murderous 14-foot puppet. So here is Gris, a game free from death and danger that follows a hopeful young girl that's lost in her own faded world after having to deal with a painful experience in her life. She also happens to have a really cool dress that manifests her emotions to help her through the healing process. Gris is an evocative, warm, and wonderful game about processing loss that really speaks to you through its captivating imagery and soundtrack. It manages to tell an entire story and say more than most games without ever ushering a single line of dialogue, and that in itself is brilliant. In a world that's full of corrupted souls looking for the next meal, it sure sucked to be snack-sized like Six in Little Nightmares. This game brought something new to the horror genre, and is yet another game that tells you all about its dark, whimsical world by not speaking a single line of dialogue. It's a good thing the main character is wearing a rain jacket, because there will be plenty of beads of sweat pouring off your face thanks to its genuinely uncanny style, eerie pacing, and oppressive atmosphere. Yet despite all of that, it strikes a strange balance of capturing your creativity and freedom in an almost childlike way. It has a certain charm to it that's very quickly snuffed out when you're consumed by a gluttonous blob of a human being, like some poor unsuspecting civilian from Attack on Titan. Getting over it. Alright, hear me out. This game is a complete and utter trash heap that yet manages to be one of the most captivating games I've ever completed. You're a pothead stuck in a pot with naught but a pickaxe and an insatiable need to overcome the mountain of garbage to reach the top. Chubbawamba's tub-thumping lyrics, "If I get knocked down and I get back up again," pretty much sums the gameplay experience top to bottom. Bennett Foddy made something truly special here that spawned an entire genre on its back. It may be trash to some, but it sets out to do exactly what it wanted, and that is to piss you right the fuck off. It's brilliant. Murder mysteries always have me intrigued, but doubly so when you're playing as a late-night radio host that has to balance playing sick tunes alongside saving civilians of a small town from a wannabe Michael Myers overnight rampage. Killer Frequency had me guessing from start to finish. It's a game that sees you becoming a stand-in 911 operator for the town of Gallows Creek when its murderous past suddenly rears its head by killing the sheriff and cutting everyone off from the outside world. It's a puzzle game at heart with light horror elements, and it's bloody incredible. You'll man the phones and direct the would-be victims of the murderer to safety, or get them shanked in a supply closet accidentally if you're anything like me. If you like murder mysteries, get on this game ASAP. It is great. When it comes to games that don't hold your hand and instead opt to kick your ass with a steel-tip boot, Don't Starve and Don't Starve Together come to mind. Often frustrating yet extremely satisfying to slowly work out, it's a survival game with a gorgeous style that offers surprisingly deep rabbit holes to anyone that would stumble into it. I've spent whole nights playing this game only to watch all of my progress burn to ash because I was holding a lighter and clicked the wrong mouse button trying to open a chest. It's a battle against poor decisions, hunger, the elements, and your sanity, both in and out of the game. The Binding of Isaac is roguelike royalty that could easily find itself much further down this list. It's a sad boys parade of light bullet hells shooting, looting, dying, and crying that everyone just needs to play if you're a fan of the genre. It's probably safe to say that had this game not done so well, the dungeon crawling roguelike style games that we see today might not be anywhere near as popular or even exist in the first place. It's easy to get sucked into this one and end up in the triple digit of playtime hours before you know it. Whilst challenging, it offers a great experience to anyone amongst its boatload of replayability. You know those moments in games where you just ponder a question and then suddenly everything clicks? It's immensely satisfying. Now imagine that there's a game series full of that exact moment, and bam, you get The Room. It's a collection of 4 games and a VR game as well, with a really elegant escape room-esque puzzle style. It's hard to explain how satisfying this game is, but it's like opening a full fridge, smelling a new car, or flicking through a new book. It's a point-and-click styled game with some light horror elements, and until very recently had remained one of my favorite puzzle games, until it was dethroned by something later on this list. Alright comrade, the Labour lottery has been drawn and your name has been called. So, report to the Greshton border checkpoint for immediate placement and the horrible punishment of being locked in an office and having to sift over a metric shit ton of paperwork, whilst also having to talk to strangers and possibly shatter their damn dreams. But you'll do it anyway, and you'll do it well, because if you don't, the very same political party that employed you might just retire you and your family from life. Papers, Please might not look special, but it very well is, and if you haven't played it, you really should. Tunic is a game I started late one night, got horribly lost and uninstalled it within an hour. I then came back and stomped my way through the whole thing, only to realize I almost missed out on one of the most extremely well-crafted love letters to adventure games of the 80s. It's an isometric action game about a kinda cute small fox, but there's also a damn reason that foxes are associated with trickery. This game is a ball buster, and I don't just mean the combat. I mean everything from finding where to go to solving its absurd puzzles. If you want to finish it, be ready to work for it, or just Google it like a lunatic. I really don't know how to describe Teardown, but it's basically a game where your creative nature just explodes and causes you to concoct plans that you'd expect to come up with after a few too many beverages. After your demolition business begins to fail, Grandma, aka your business partner, throws her ethics out the window and sets you on a path of crime instead, having you use your skills in the demolitionist trade to complete heists. And she doesn't make your life easy either. At one point she asks you to steal 6 things across a town in 60 seconds. I made a damn catapult out of a plank of wood and a bunch of rocket thrusters to fly across the river to get the job done. Also, style points are really important in this, so, be creative. I remember laying eyes on They Are Billions and seeing a steampunk colony survival game with more zombies than you can poke a stick at, and instantly resigning myself to paying whatever price tag it asked. Set in a world after humanity has crumbled under the apocalypse, yet not really a unique setting, and neither are the zombies that are everywhere. It's hardly a novel concept, but the sheer amount of them this game has can be absolutely mind-boggling. You'll start off with a small colony, prepare your strategy, slowly expand in size, upgrading tech, laying out your town to look all so nice, and oh fuck, you missed one zombie that somehow got into a house, and now there's 400 of them, the city is doomed. It's genuinely challenging. Oh my god, this game had me so addicted. This won't be the last time that the developers over at Supergiant Games turn up on this list. It turns out they're just really good at making great experiences, and any of them could have turned up here, but this time around it's Transistor. It's an action RPG that follows a red-headed cyber sword-wielding songstress's venture after she finds the Transistor, the sword she wields and her companion throughout the game, on the body of a murdered man. And voila, with this incredible weapon and device in hand, you'll soon be fighting back a legion of automatons and a group called the Camerata, who are both in the midst of destroying Cloudbank City. Supergiant has a way of crafting really great worlds and then fleshing it out with awesome combat systems. This game in particular uses a mix of planned time freezing combat and also quick-paced real-time action. Even after 10 years, this game remains incredible. Citizen Sleeper is a role-playing game that takes place in the crumbled ruins of interplanetary capitalism down with the rich. You'll all but wash up on the cosmic waves to a lawless station at the edge of an interstellar society. Stuck to the station you've found yourself on, you'll either have the chance to construct a new life here and adapt, or find a way to escape. This was one of the standout indie games of 2022 and is heavily inspired by Blade Runner and tabletops, being part RPG and part visual novel. It features a dice rolling system and one of the most grounded cyberpunk sci-fi worlds you'll find. It's very heavy on the story and very light on the gameplay, but luckily it excels where it wants to and offers a really interesting experience. A game that's doing the rounds for Indie of the Year in 2023 is also a game that sailed out of the safety of its ports, across the dangerous depths and into mine very own heart. Dredge is a brilliant fishing narrative that brings a horror twist to the genre. H.P. Lovecrafted with a fine-tuned balance of a relaxing fishing experience and an absolutely horrifying ocean-top adventure, I've never quite played a game that's both relaxing and scary at the same time. After your ship is damaged on rocks that appeared out of nowhere, you end up indebted to the mayor of a small seaside town for its repairs, given the task of feeding the village as its fishermen for repayment. Sadly, the area is also home to many a nightmarish secret that lurk beneath the waves, which is immediately evident when the townsfolk tell you not to stay out after dark. Now drawn into both the horrible clutches of capitalism and the machinations of entities beyond your comprehension, you'll have to sail your way across the seas to uncover the secrets of forces that now have you fishing to their bait. Spiritfarer is a game that will take your tear ducts and use them as a punching bag to deliver maximum emotional damage, but amidst doing so, also deliver one of the most wholesome, thought-provoking, and bittersweet journeys you'll ever find. It's a management game where you play as Stella, ferrymaster to the recently deceased as you build up your floating spirit hotel, pick up some spirit friends, perform fun little tasks, care for them, forge lovely bonds together, and then inevitably release them into the afterlife and sob like a toddler that hasn't had food. The developers market this game as cozy, but I don't know if I would put it that way exactly. It's heartwarming and soul-shattering at the same time. You can lessen the emotional damage by playing it in co-op also. One of you gets to control a cat, and that's pretty nice I guess. Do you like games that you'll basically never be able to finish? Well, shit, say hello to Terraria. If you've never played it, you'd say it's a Minecraft ripoff, but shh, now we don't need that nonsense. I mean, look, it's a sandbox game that you'll do a lot of mining and digging in, but you'll also do a lot of dying and fighting bosses, and then dying some more. It's a labor of love and a must-play for anyone that's enjoyed sandbox games. There's just so much to this game as a new player. It's one of the few games that I won't go full-on elitist and judge you with prolonged eye contact if you were to Google, how the shit do I do the thing? Dig, fight, explore, build, steal your friend's shit, and then go die deep underground in an expanse somewhere you'll never reach again. Man, this game just had its 10th anniversary, and people still rave about it for good reason. It's kind of weird to think that Firewatch came out 7 years ago now. It still feels like yesterday. This is a game to play if you don't care much for quick-time events, heavy-handed controls, or dodging the murderous 14-foot grotesque boss that decided it was on site the moment that you stepped into their room. It follows Henry, a man that simply said fuck it all and left his messy full-time job behind to take up being a fire lookout in the Wyoming wilderness. Now perched high in your tower, it's a solitary life, but certainly not uneventful. Mysterious events, missing persons, possibly steamy conversations with the nearby lookout Delilah, aliens, okay, one or more of those things may be a lie, but Firewatch is a beautiful game through and through. It's got a short runtime, but it definitely packs a punch that you will remember. Cocoon is a very recent game that has swiftly stolen away the accolade of being my personal favorite puzzle game. It's made by the lead gameplay designer of Limbo and Inside, and let me tell you, his games just keep getting better. It's a mind-bending experience that sees a small bug man literally shoulder the burden of the world on his exoskeleton. The main mechanic of this game is world jumping, as each world you can enter is within an orb that you can pick up, place, alter, and have interact with other worlds that are also orbs. It'll see you solving puzzles and mysteries through multiple planets at once, and melting your brain into soup as you overthink the answers to really simple puzzles by the end. It has a super charming way of doing that. You're thinking in quantum mechanics when the answer is just put the thing on the button over there. You learnt this at the start of the game. Silly, silly puzzle man. Life is Strange. I feel like everyone has played this game, but if you somehow haven't and are a fan of episodic story games, this is the one I'd recommend highly. It follows Max Caulfield, a relatively bland photography senior, who just happens to find out that they can rewind time one day after their friend, Chloe, has a bit of an American bathroom accident. Not only can she rewind time, but she can also rewrite events and save her friend. This leads Chloe and Max down an alternate path of investigating the disappearance of a fellow student, and in the process unearthing the dark secrets of their hometown, Arcadia Bay. But perhaps not all is sunshine and roses. After all, rewriting the past might just lead to a brutal future. When it comes to roguelites, Slay the Spire will top my lists any day. It masterfully combines card games and roguelikes together to get the literal incarnation of just one more run, damn it. It's an intense, addicting game about building decks to overcome strange creatures and then powering up with relics, trades, and broken combos to get to the beating heart of the Spire itself. It features hundreds of cards, multiple classes with unique playstyles, and oh, so much satisfaction when it all clicks, and you find yourself tearing through the ever-changing levels in the blink of an eye. They say that collecting cards in real life is like cardboard cocaine. Well, they just digitize the process because it's far too easy to get sucked into this. Rimworld is a game that I barely even know where to begin with. I've seen people with thousands of hours in this game truly struggle to describe what the hell is going on. And that's fair enough when the things that are occurring before your eyes are all the result of an intelligent AI and its very strange storytelling. This game is an immersive colony sim with story generation that results in innumerable possibilities and one guarantee. The events of this game can often be beyond mortal comprehension, like they were penned to the page by H.P. Lovecraft, or they can be as strange as watching a 90-year-old granny divorce 4 men simultaneously that are half her age before accidentally locking herself in the room and dying of heatstroke. Oh yeah, and what was that one guarantee I mentioned? War crimes. Oh, so many war crimes. Try as hard as you might like, you'll be putting the Geneva Convention into a shredder before you know it, probably by accident or intentionally, who knows. Anyway, Rimworld, what a wild ride. Frostpunk is a game that is both so good and so convincing in its delivery that it somehow managed to make me feel genuinely cold amidst the middle of an Australian summer. It's a brutal mix of city building and survival games that'll see you in charge of the last city on Earth after the world has been engulfed by bitter snows. The premise? The city must survive no matter what. Your little abode is huddled around a massive coal heater and needs to stay on no matter what. The children don't yearn for the mines? Too bad, it's better than everyone freezing. People aren't working hard enough? Sprinkle some white snow in their coffee for extra energy, resort to cannibalism to keep the soups hearty, or just throw the elderly in the snow. How you rule the city is up to you. A fanatic, tyrannical, cutthroat cult leader, or a good and just lord. The city must survive, despite Mother Nature doing its best to smother out its small, flickering flame. From the city must survive to the factory must grow in Factorio, this is a game all about building an ever-expansive, resource-hungry behemoth and then continually optimizing it, only to realize that your spaghetti base is not optimal before ripping it all out and accidentally making it way worse. Rinse and repeat until you have a somewhat functional, resource-sapping monstrosity. The local wildlife obviously won't take too kind to this, so you'll have to defend it all and run the risk of being overrun by massive bugs. Factorio is a game that will sap away not only your life, but your very soul. You'll go to bed and think about those sweet, sweet logistics, wake up the next day and gaze upon the utter mess you've made, and you know what? You'll be happy. How could you not be? The factory must grow after all. I'm just gonna bundle up the two Ori games here. If you're a fan of the Metroidvania-esque action platformers, then look no further, my dear friend. Ori tells the tale of an orphan destined for heroics. The forest of Nibel is dying after a strange darkness creeps in and corrupts it all, withering the fruit and poisoning the water, and bringing along with it famine and death. Now fleeing your home, Ori encounters a strange, luminant creature who knows why the forest had succumbed to the corruption and needs your help to restore it. Saying this game is visually stunning probably doesn't quite do it justice. It's a work of hand-painted art with countless hours of love poured into it from every angle, and whether it be the animation, the music, or the stunning level of detail, it's just wow. There are a few games that have a stronger cult-like following than Deep Rock Galactic. I mean, let's just test that theory. Did somebody say rock and stone? Wait for it. Anyway, if you've ever wanted to delve deep underground with 1 to 4 of your dwarven pals to mine until your fingers fall off, then this right here is the game for you. The expansive underground caverns are full with enough minerals to make you rich, but it'll be a hard day's work. You'll have to fend off the cavern-dwelling hordes of dwarf-enjoying insects that are a bit hungry. Understandable, heavy drilling where you would sleep would be pretty annoying. That's not the only risk though. You best keep an eye on your friends who didn't learn Minecraft's golden rule of not digging directly downwards. They might just be the greatest danger of it all. Between blasting and burrowing, DRG is something special, and you always need to remember one thing. If you don't rock and stone, you ain't going home. What if someone gave you the option to relive your life from your first memories? Would you take it? To the Moon is a truly emotion-evoking sucker punch to the tear ducts. It follows along with two doctors who have to traverse through a dying man's memories to artificially fulfill his last wish. Dr. Rosaline and Dr. Watts have peculiar jobs, performing a surgery to people on their deathbeds to fulfill what they wish they had done with their lives, but didn't. This tale follows that procedure and a man named Johnny, who of course wishes he could go to the moon before he passes on. If you can manage to get through this story without crying, I will be surprised. Surprised because you're probably more of a demon than a human at this point, and I didn't think demons existed. If you're talking games that I have an absolute love-hate relationship with, Darkest Dungeon is numero uno. It's a dark gothic roguelite that takes a look at the psychological stresses of adventuring by manifesting the same level of stress in you as you watch your lovely party of heroes get systematically picked apart on their quest to reclaim their ancestors' estate. You'll pick up, train, and lead your team through the darkness, battling many foes along the way in a turn-based combat system with a truly gorgeous art style. Overcoming the undead is easy, but overcoming every affliction is not. You can't really apply an axe or a dagger to the troubles of the head, after all. Well, not if you want to adventure onwards anyway. It's a game where you'll fight and battle to search for secrets, but only leave with or succumb to severe mental illness. It's a great time. It's hard to find a single thing that's bad about Journey. It's more of a work of art than it is a game. Speaking of art, its soundtrack was even nominated for a Grammy at one point. It's gorgeous through and through and will see you wandering the barren desert and soaring above ancient ruins to discover the secrets that lay within. With games getting more and more complex, Journey is a reminder that where complexity often fails us, simplicity can be the answer. If you were to hone the basic fundamentals of game design to the point of near perfection, it would give you this game. Action sequences without violence, and an entire story yet again without words. Journey speaks through its stunning visual and captivating venture to the mountaintops. When people ask, what's the best survival game, I'd be hard-pressed not to just say Subnautica outright. Not one for the faint of heart or with the fear of the open ocean, however. Stranded on an ocean alien planet after your ship crashed out of orbit and all alone, this is a tale that will see you traveling to the deepest abysses to uncover the secrets of this planet before being able to leave it. It sounds counterintuitive, but this world is sick and infected, and the previous denizens who now inhabit this watery graveyard were all well on their way to developing the cure. With no other option, you can only adapt, build, and survive the newfound ecosystem and its food chain. No matter how big a boat or base you build, there is always something bigger in the ocean. I don't think survival games have managed to reach this level for me since playing this game, which is a shame, but it'll always be my golden benchmark for the genre, I imagine. Sometimes there are games that only take a few hours to complete, but will also leave you thinking about them for a long while. And What Remains of Edith Finch is one of those. It's a game that's equally haunting and reassuring at the same time. A poignant tale told through the eyes of the last descendant of the Finch family, who wanders a now decaying house. Immersed in tragic tales of a family now long gone, she looks for clues to the curse that has plagued her lineage. She looks for answers as to why everyone but her was taken by the Reaper. It's a game that's all about being humbled by the uncontrollable and unknowable world around us. It's perfect for a quick single-day experience in one sitting and will sit in your mind for years. Some games are just mind-blowingly creative in their approach to deliver their stories, and Before Your Eyes is one of those games. This game uses a webcam to immerse you with its simple premise. Every time you blink in real life, time will flow and new memories will appear, the old ones gone in an instant. It's a game where crying in real life may actually be an exploit, as it allows you to keep your eyes open longer to experience the story of a soul's journey into the afterlife. The premise of your life flashing before your eyes is perfectly inserted into this game's mechanics, which makes it simply amazing. Blink and it's over. Memories of family, first loves, a career, and entire life, all observed by the ferryman who will force you to confront the truth of your very being before sailing you across the veil. There seems to be a lot of games on this list that tell their entire tales without opening their mouth to spew dialogue on this list, so let's add another one. It's Inside. It's a narrative-driven platformer with a truly dark, oppressing, and helpless feeling overhanging the whole experience. You'll follow a young red-shirted boy who's found himself hunted and alone at the center of a dark project which he simply cannot fathom. A side-scrolling horror experience with puzzles, it's stuck with me for a very long while. It's a masterclass in visuals and sound design being combined to perfectly purvey a crushing story. It's a bittersweet tale that will drag you into its cold, grim world before you know it. This one often goes on sale for upwards of like 90%, so pick it up if you catch it doing so. Sifu beat my ass black and blue on repeat for days on end as I attempted to get it down to perfection, and I would not complain doing it all over again. It's a tale of vengeance and good old kung fu fist and feet throwing action that'll have you feeling like you're prime Bruce Lee one moment and then have your ass knocked out on the floor the next as some asshole smacks you from behind with a steel pipe. After your dojo was destroyed and your father was murdered, you clutch tight a medallion that brings you back to life at the cost of some of your lifespan. The older you get, the more damage you do, however, the more frail you become. And of course, you use this universe-defying discovery to whoop some ass and get revenge for Sensei. This game demands a lot from you to overcome, and that is exactly why I love it. If I'm ever to think of underrated gems, I always immediately think of Furi. This is a game that will have you pumped as you dash between energy balls and beams with your trusty energy pistol and katana whilst jamming out to its immaculate soundtrack at the same time. I went through a video game vinyl phase where I was purchasing a bunch of music from games, and this was the first one that I purchased because it's just that good. It's a boss rush game at heart with moments of quiet forward exposition in between. Somehow they've managed to make every single fight feel like it's a big deal, almost like it's the last fight you'll encounter in the game. It's got final boss feels written all over it all the time. If you want to escape from your perceived wrongful imprisonment in this orbital prison designed to contain specifically you, you'll have to fight through the jailers, and they will absolutely make you work for it. If you love challenging bullet hell styled games, I cannot recommend it enough. Death's Door was one of those games that had me entirely captivated by the end. In this game, you play as a crow who also works as a reaper for an ethereal corporate body headed up by an entity known as the Lord of Doors, who seemingly controls death itself. Given an assignment to reap a soul in the outer world, you find it to be overgrown, stagnant, and almost stuck in time. Worse yet, the soul you were assigned has been stolen, and now you must venture the realms untouched by death, where creatures are well past their expiry date and overflow with power. It seems your corporation isn't doing a great job out there. Whilst I didn't find this game overly hard, it was the premise of trying to cheat death and its inevitability that had me truly invested. You can also fight through the whole game with an umbrella for extra style points, which is, it's great stuff. Yeah, I'm not really good at platformers, and Celeste reminded me of that fact by vaporizing me into tiny little pixelated clouds of dust at every single chance it got. At the surface, this game is simple. Well, not mechanically if you suck like I do. Anyway, you'll need to help Madeline venture to the top of Celeste Mountain. Under the water, however, it tackles themes of self, as the main character struggles to fight their own demons that criticize their very person with every jump. It also offers an incredibly tight, immaculate feeling platforming experience, backed up by gorgeous visuals and once again an excellent soundtrack that will hopefully keep your rage at bay, as you inevitably fail the assigned task a couple hundred times. You know when you talk to a friend and they've done 1,000 things this year and you suddenly feel incredibly lazy? Well, Cuphead kinda has that effect on me when I think about how it was created. Painstakingly remodeling the classic 1930s cartoons it was based on, it has traditional hand-drawn cell animations, watercolored backgrounds, and even original jazz recordings of the era. The amount of work that went into this game is baffling, and it's paid off in every way. It's a pure delight to the eyes. If you somehow haven't played it, it's a difficult run-and-gun cartoon action game with a fairly heavy emphasis on boss battles. It plays both in solo and co-op modes, and it really just doesn't go wrong either way. It offers a ball-busting level of difficulty that might just put your sweet RGB gaming peripherals at risk. So I'd recommend maybe bubble wrapping them or something, just in case, because this game will lure you in with its looks and then beat you until you have a halo of stars rotating clockwise around your head. Dead Cells picked up the fading pieces of the roguelike genre after Binding of Isaac for me, and then single-handedly revived the entire thing. It married the best of Castlevania and the genre together to create an absolute banger of a video game that they call a Roguevania. It even has a Castlevania DLC out now, which I really need to get to. Everything about this game is just top-notch, from its buttery smooth combat, to the hundreds of weapons and spells, to its brutal difficulty and its enemies and its bosses, the way it looks and sounds, it's just immaculate. It's also just jam-packed with content and longevity. After releasing in 2018, it's still seeing content coming to it. If you enjoy Metroidvanias, side-scrollers, or roguelites, it is just a treat, and you really ought to get to it. Now, earlier on I said that Cocoon was my favorite puzzle game, but much like the good ship in the Return of the Obra Dinn, this one sailed straight out of my memory. So I guess I lied. My bad. To be fair to me, it's a very different style of puzzle game, in that it's a deductive investigation-style journey about piecing together the events that occurred aboard a ship that went missing. It all starts when the merchant vessel, the Obra Dinn, vanishes at sea in 1803, only to drift into the port of Falmouth 4 years later, with everyone aboard dead or missing. As an insurance investigator of the East India Trading Company, you are quickly dispatched to sort the paperwork. Luckily for you, you're also given a pocket watch, which is called the Memento Mortem, which allows you to see the last moments of any poor cadaver you find. Equipped with that and the available logs and images of the crew, you must use deduction and logic to work out who is who, how they died, and most importantly, what happened aboard the ill-fated ship at sea. From above the waves to deep, deep below, I will die on the hill that SOMA is not only Frictional Games' best game, well outshining Amnesia, but also one of the best psychological horror narratives ever made. I played it back in 2016, and it still has me thinking about the ending, about the unsettling story of identity, consciousness, and what it even means to be human. Set in the underwater facility of Pathos 2, the radio is dead, food is scarce, and the machines have begun to think they're people. One moment you're in a doctor's office for a brain scan, and the next you're inside. You discover that not only are you one of the last alive in the entire station, but also on the planet, as humanity seemingly left it behind. But you are not alone. For what those who escaped left behind is still in the station, along with a few others that are seemingly trapped inside bodies that are no longer made of flesh. If that doesn't interest you as the groundwork for the story, I don't know what will. Life is full of contradictions, and this world was not simply built for you to understand it, but day by monotonous day, your little adventures and steps into the unknown build upon foundations of knowing. Whether you followed in the footsteps laid before you or veered off the path to the right when you were told to go left, you didn't know any better, and that is exactly what the Stanley Parable is all about. To say that you play this game might not exactly be accurate. Maybe the game plays you. Stanley may control you, or you control Stanley, who really knows? Do you follow a story or do you make one? It's simply a mindfuck of contradictions crammed into a video game and then narrated by the ever so smooth voice of Kevin Brighting. You follow along as Stanley as the game plays you. You begin in an office building, a normal day, but everyone's missing. Go to the break room or break the rules and just don't. I don't really even know how to write a script for this game because I barely even know what the hell it is. Disco Elysium is not only groundbreaking, but it's deep as fuck. It's an incredible role-playing game that sees you taking on the role of a detective who's had a bit too much of a bender and brought about a little bit of an alcoholic-induced amnesiac episode after he attempted to drown his sorrows in the old bottle. Despite not even really knowing who he is, he's somehow still considered fit to solve a murder mystery that was assigned to him prior to the copious amounts of drugs and alcohol he partook in. This tale takes place in a city that is still recovering from a civil war. As the investigation goes on, you'll uncover plenty about it, the factions that inhabit it, the forces behind the scenes of its seedy underbelly, and you'll also recover bits of yourself in the process. The depth to this game is just unfathomable. The way you can build your narrative, change the landscape, and approach situations is incredible. The voice work is pure quality, and the writing is utter brilliance. If you're a lover of tabletop RPGs or just RPGs in general, this is right up your alley and you should get on it immediately. I am a sucker for mythology, especially Greek mythology. You probably already know what game I'm talking about, but the second I heard of Hades, I knew I had to give it a go. I expected another roguelite to throw in the pile, but no. I was absolutely blown away from jump by the visuals, the combat, the undeniable voice and character work this game has. It's a roguelike that is brilliantly crafted down to the premise and the mechanics that follow it. The genre is all about dying after all and then getting back up again. And what better setting than the underworld, the House of Hades, and the River Styx to perfectly situate it. You play as Zagreus, Prince of the Underworld and son of Hades, who's hell-bent on a mission to leave it all behind and then venture to the surface to avoid his daddy issues. Constantly being beaten down and having a bath in the blood of the River Styx is this game's MO. Yet despite the repetition, it does not get old thanks to the sheer depth, the evolving narrative, and its characters contain. And that's not even talking about the combat and all the awesome builds that you can get going to overcome the quite difficult escape from Greek hell. There are millions more compliments I could give this game. It is my favorite roguelike, and you really ought to just go piss dad off, who happens to be Hades in this case again, so maybe don't do that. This game is second on this list, yet it's full of bugs. I'm so sick of hearing that joke. Why did I write it and force it upon you? I'm sorry. It's Hollow Knight at the number 2 position. I could truly argue this is a Souls-like in its narrative and world-building approach, and none of you could argue back, seeing as it essentially has a one-to-one narrative with Dark Souls itself. However, the gameplay element is where it completely differs. You wander in a small bug with a broken blade, recalled to what feels like home by a distant force to fulfill a purpose that you don't understand. When you arrive, you find the ruins of a once grand kingdom, an ever-sprawling system of tunnels and domains, all brought together by its once great ruler. But it's no more. It's just a shell, a graveyard full of mindless mad bugs, still performing the duties they once had in life. Its name is Hallownest, and you are not simply content on leaving. You're off to find every single damn secret you can in your inevitable 100-hour playthrough. Tight design, an incredible existential story, amazing bosses, a brilliant soundtrack, an enchanting, haunting world. There's just so much to love in this game. If you're happy to get lost in its world, metaphorically and literally, this 2D platformer with light-ish platforming elements will absolutely blow your socks off if you've never played it. It's not only my second favorite game on this list, it's my second favorite game of all time. In a way, this entire video was just pure procrastination, a really long-winded way to talk about my favorite game of all time. Literally, my entire drive to make this video was to set the groundwork to get you to play Outer Wilds. If you've looked at this video, agreed with this list, and maybe thought, yeah, this guy kinda knows his stuff, yet still have not played this game, I need you to, well, first watch the remainder of this video, and then go get it and play it. There are 0 games on this planet that I would give a perfect 10, except for maybe this one on a good day. However, I'm going to avoid telling you much about it because it's a game in which saying knowledge is power has never been more true, because that is exactly what is at the core of this adventure. A fledgling astronaut's first day venturing into the stars will lead to an experience that will stick with you for a lifetime. No piece of media, period, has ever spoken to me more than this game. And now every single time I hear a banjo, it dredges up all kinds of emotions from the abyssal reaches of my heart. This game reshaped my appreciation for the little things and reframed my perception of life entirely. I know full well it's not a game for everyone, especially not people prone to motion sickness, my god. But if you enjoy it, you will love it. You'll be lost in it. It'll scratch your brain, and before you know it, it'll be engraved on your soul. It's a love letter from its developers, and words fail to explain how much it actually means to me. Don't look up anything about it. Trust me, you just gotta go. That's a wrap. I've probably kept you here way too long talking about indie games. This script itself took a very long time to write. So if you enjoyed it, maybe hit the channel with a little subby or something, or maybe, you know, like the video. You do whatever you want. I would appreciate it nonetheless. I hope you found some interesting games that you might not have known about, or maybe you just enjoyed the list and it was nice seeing some that you did know. Anyway, I'll see you around. Thanks a bunch for watching. Signing off.